Welcome to the Explainer. All right, so if you're a developer, you know the struggle. You're constantly wrestling with multiple branches, fighting with Git stash, and just drowning in context switching. Well, this one's for you. We're about to break down a really powerful workflow that brings some serious calm to all that coding chaos. So let's dive right into a problem that, let's be honest, every single developer knows all too well. Trying to manage a bunch of different tasks at the same time, all inside the same codebase. You know exactly how this feels, right? Picture this. You're deep in the zone, building out a major new feature. Then, out of nowhere, a critical, high-priority bug report lands on your desk. And just to make things interesting, there's that big code refactor that's been waiting for you. So how do you handle all of that at once without completely losing your mind or your work? Well, the old way of dealing with this, it's a world of constant context switching. You do the git stash dance with your feature work, jump over to the bug fix, you commit that, and then you try to pop your stash and wait, where was I? It's clunky, it's definitely risky, and it's just a massive drain on your focus. Yeah, this whole situation pretty much forces us to find a better way. We've got to move away from that chaos of stashing and toward a workflow with truly isolated workspaces, something that lets you keep your focus and actually make progress on multiple things in parallel. So, what's the magic wand that makes this possible? Well, it's this really powerful and honestly super underused feature that's already built right into Git, Worktrees. This is the key. This is what unlocks that cleaner, parallel workflow we're all looking for. To put it simply, a Git Worktree lets you create a brand new, totally separate working directory for a different branch. You don't have to clone your entire project all over again. You just get this fresh, isolated space. And that frees you up to jump between tasks without worrying about one set of changes bleeding into another. Okay, that sounds awesome in theory, right? But what does it actually look like in practice? Let's walk through a real-world example of how you can set up a parallel development environment right now. What's so cool about this approach is just how clean the structure is. You have your main project folder where the core.get data lives. Then, boom, right alongside it, you have these clean, separate folders for every single task. The refactor, the new feature, the bug fix. Each one is its own little workspace, but they're all intelligently linked back to that one single source of truth. And you know what? Getting started is way simpler than you might think. First, you just make sure your main branch is up to date. Then you run a single Git Worktree add command. That one command creates both a new branch and a new directory for it. And when your work is done and merged, a couple of quick cleanup commands get rid of the work tree and the branch, keeping your whole project nice and tidy. Okay, but here's the thing. Like any really powerful tool, this isn't some magic bullet that solves every problem automatically. There are definitely some potential pitfalls. So let's talk about the hard-won lessons of working this way. Here is the catch. This is the double-edged sword they talk about. While working in parallel feels incredibly productive, the merge conflicts you might face later on can completely wipe out all those gains. If two of your parallel streams are modifying the same core files, well, the merge can be an absolute nightmare. And this quote, it just nails the danger here. If you're not careful, you can accidentally create these work streams that drift so far from your main branch that they become like a parallel universe inside your code. That's a huge red flag. You, the developer, have to be the one steering the ship, not letting the parallel tasks steer you off course. So what this all means is you have to be way more intentional about it. It starts with planning ahead, looking at the project and figuring out which parts have very little overlap. Then you got to assess the risks. You can even use AI tools to help spot potential conflicts. And you know what? Always be ready for surprises, because conflicts can still happen.
All right, let's take this to the next level. We're going to combine work trees with a really smart branching model to manage all this complexity like a pro.
This is where things get really, really interesting. You can actually leverage an AI, something like Claude, to help you out. By giving it a rundown of your open issues, it can analyze them for conflict potential. Like you can see here, it figures out that messing with database indexes, probably low conflict. But this new data fetching stuff that touches both the front and back end, the risk there is medium. This helps you make much smarter choices about what to work on in parallel. And that kind of AI analysis, it fits perfectly with what we call the rebase before PR model. The rules are simple, but they are so powerful. The golden rule, the absolute core idea, is to always rebase your feature branch onto the latest main before you even think about opening a pull request. Why? Because it keeps your project history squeaky clean and linear, which makes merges dramatically simpler.
Okay, so let's bring this all home. What are the big takeaways? How can you actually start using this stuff to level up your own workflow, like today?
Honestly, the biggest lesson here is knowing when to go parallel and when to just not. Worktrees are your best friend for things like independent features, most bug fixes, and other low-conflict tasks. But for those huge, critical, high-risk refactors that touch the very heart of your application, sometimes the old-school, single-threaded sequential approach is just safer and, believe it or not, probably faster in the long run. And this is where it gets really mind-bending. When you start automating parts of this workflow, using AI to predict those conflicts, maybe even handle the entire rebase process for you, it leads us to this one big provocative question. As these tools get smarter and smarter, are we heading toward a future where our project managers are also the AIs managing our code? It's a fascinating, kind of wild thought about where software development itself is headed.